nobody outside of who he said he is. And I thank you for that, because that's who we want to serve. We want to serve someone that's truthful. We want to serve someone that can forgive us. We want to serve someone who has our back. You know, we don't want to serve no one who will sit there and falter in a time of trouble. We want somebody to be there, right there with us, thick and thin. And God is all that. He's right there with us, protecting us through thick and thin. And I thank you for having my back. I say hallelujah to you, Lord. I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for the glory of God. And I thank you, Lord, for your grace and mercy of being who you are. Woo! I don't know about you, but I am totally grateful. I am totally convinced that Lord is on my side. Hallelujah. 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 My name is Miss Mary Ann, and I will be your pulpit conductor for today. And my verse is coming out of Ezekiel 36 and 26. It says, moreover, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. Yes. And I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. Remove the stones of my heart, Lord Father God. Anything that, Lord Father God, is not of you, remove it from my heart. Let me have a pliable heart, Lord Father God, that can receive you, Lord Father God. That will not be full with unforgiveness, Lord Father God, or hatred, Lord Father God. I thank you for removing the stones of my heart, Lord, that my heart can hear what you're saying to me, Lord, that I'll be receptive to what your word is trying to give me, Lord Father God. And I say hallelujah to your will. I say hallelujah to your way. I say yes, Lord. I give you a new yes, Lord. Thank you for removing the stones. Thank you for making my heart pliable. I say hallelujah to you, Lord. I say hallelujah to you, Lord. I thank you, Lord Father God. I thank you, Lord Father God. I thank you, Lord Father God, because if I had 10,000 tongues, I couldn't tell you enough of how much I thank you and I love you. Hallelujah. When you think about the goodness, what can you do but say thank you? Because he didn't have to do it, but he did. He didn't have to do it, but he did. Woo! I don't know about you, but it just does my heart good every time I think about it. He is so good. He is so good. He is so good. I don't even think the word good is good enough. I don't think the word good is good enough. Woo! All I can say is hallelujah. Hallelujah. Well, we're going to get ready to do our vision and our mission statement. Can everybody please stand as we get ready to do our vision and mission statement? Our vision, say it together please. Our Center of Attractions vision is to be the best trained and evangelistic ministry in the world. Our mission, Center of Attraction outreach for the purpose of glorifying the name of Jesus through worship, Christian discipline, and proclaiming of the gospel. What kind of place is it? A present and prosperous place. A place of worship to our God. An apostolic and prophetic place. A place of community and international outreach. A place exploding in growth. And what did Jesus say in John 12:32? And if I be lifted up from the earth, I draw all men unto me. So what are we going to do today? Lift him up! Lift him up! Lift Jesus up! Hallelujah! 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 Lift up your name, Lord! We lift up your name! Oh, who you are, Lord! We say hallelujah to you, Lord! You deserve it all! You deserve it all! Hallelujah! Thank you, Lord! Thank you, Lord Father God! And Lord Father God, as we get ready to come, we're going to bring up the praise team. Praise team. And we're going to do some hallelujah.
Holy, alone with him. Take a moment now to be with the one who is the giver of life. That whatever you lack in your life, he is here now to give it to you. Receive life. I receive life. I receive life, and that to the full right now. I receive life. And you shall find rest unto your soul. Tell the Lord, I rest in you. I rest. I rest. I rest. I rest in you. Yes. I believe in you. I trust in you. I totally depend upon you. Father, renew our strength. Renew our strength. Help us to return to the joy of our salvation. Nanashua, the joy of our salvation. To live a life of love and peace. Yes, Lord. Thank you, praise team. Stay in the presence of the Lord. We're standing on holy ground right now. Angels are on assignment. Jesus is walking in the midst of the candlesticks. As the song goes, glory has come down. Heaven has come down and glory has filled our souls. Let them whisper sweet somethings in your spirit, in your mind, right now. Revive us, Lord. As we magnify your name. Yes, Lord. Be still and know your God. Be still now. Soul, be still. Mind, be still. Yes, Lord. What you heard from him personally, write it down. Backside of your bulletin. The strategy, the next step, the decision. The Spirit is reminding some of you of what you promised him you would do. The Spirit is reminding some of you of what you asked him to remind you of. Call your people to that place, that secret place, in your presence. Yes, Lord. 30 seconds. Give it all in now. Yes, Lord. seated if you can. If you want to remain standing, that's okay. Thank you, praise to you. Y'all got it? Did you write it down? You got it. You ever been in the presence of the Lord where you want to move but you can't move? So don't move. Stay like that. Don't turn your head. Don't look. Stay there. Go home. Just stay there. Not for everybody. I know better. You're going to go back to your station. Understand? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Just stay there. You've been waiting for this all week. Stay there. It's well with our soul. It is. It's going to be all right. Somebody say the peace of God. The peace of God. That passes all understanding. That rules. It rules. The peace of God rules our heart and our minds. Say the peace of God. We have the peace of God. It's right in you. Right in you. When you got Jesus, you have the Prince of Peace, the peace of God. Say the peace of God is in me. And it's well with my soul. Trouble won't pass. Trouble won't pass. You feel trouble. You're in trouble. Stand right now. You feel trouble. You feel trouble. Stand. You're in trouble. Stand. Heart just been going through the mind, just going through burdens, heavy laden. Done all that you could do, can't do no more. The Lord says, I have made the way. I've made the way. I told you that I made the way because I am the way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. So now you seek me while I may be found. Call on me while I am near. I'm closer than you think. And you are only a step away from your answer. Come to me. That's what I ask. Keep coming to me. And I will lift that off of you. So that you can have rest in your soul. So Father, thank you. Lift it now. Church, pray. Lift it now. Lift it now. Lift it now. In the name of Jesus. In Jesus' name. Amen. You will see it. God bless. Hallelujah. We magnify God today. This may be uncomfortable for you, but I want you all to stand, and I want you to find 2 or 3 people and let them know. Everyone stand. Everyone stand. That can. Everyone stand that can. I want you to find 2 or 3 or 4 people And I want you to minister to them the love of God. Don't have to be long, give them a Christian handshake, hug, whatever's comfortable, and tell them the Lord loves you. He really does. Okay, that's what you tell them. Go, do it now. The Lord loves you. He really does.
I don't know what you came to do, but I came to pray. I came to give you glory. Woo, hallelujah. Okay. All right. Sister Sherry, can you come to our announcements, please? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord.
Praise the Lord. These are our announcements. Special fasting and prayer every Wednesday. No supernatural Sunday service in April. Women's Day, March 31st at 11 a.m. and evening service at 5 p.m. Good Friday service will be at Christ Community Church at 12 noon this year. Also, the Bridgeport baseball team is having a Krispy Kreme donut fundraiser. If you want to order, please see Sister Tina. And they are $9 per dozen. Do we have any first-time visitors in the house today? Please stand and give us your name, church home, if you have one.
My name is Gabriella.
Praise God. Welcome, Gabriella. Good to have you. Amen.
Scripture for the month. Scripture for the month. Proverbs 4:20 to 22. Who's ready to take the challenge? Please stand. You ready to take the challenge? Please stand. Hallelujah. No one. All of you, please stand. Proverbs 4:20 to 22 is on your bulletin. Ready to read together? Ready? You have your bulletin? All right, ready? Read.
My son, take my word, if I obey my sayings, and not to depart from your eyes, keep them in the midst of your heart. For they are life to those who find them, and health to all their flesh.
Now this is the scripture you're going to study all month. All right, you're going to study this all month. You're going to inquire of the Lord regarding this scripture. All right, you're going to know it by heart. Amen. Amen. This is not a suggestion. This is a directive from your pastor. That you know this by heart, because man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word. This is an incredibly important scripture for you and I to know, because it will get us there. This is what it says. My son, give attention to my word. Incline, lean your ear to my saying. So what is the Lord saying? See, don't let them depart from your eyes. So that means that whatever scripture God has given to you, you got them on a 3x5 card or something, you ever got it in you, you're in your pocket, in your purse. Yeah, those are the safe places. And begin to take it out and begin to see it, rehearse it, etc., recite it, break time, stopping by some stop sign, etc., etc. You ever listen to me? We have to be masters at scripture, which means that you're always looking at it every day. Tell me what's going to happen. It's going to come into you. It's going to possess you. Amen. And you're going to walk that scripture out. It says here, keep it before your eyes, in the midst of your heart, for they are what? Life to those who find him. And what? And what?
Health.
And what?
Health.
Health to what?
All
Their flesh. Life and health to all our flesh. How bad do you need it? How bad you want it will determine how determined you are to get it. This is what I'm getting us to. Because if we're still where we are, where we were, and there's been no change, we got to do something different. Because I ain't going to be insane for nobody. Amen. Amen. So keep these in mind. Let it guide and guard your life. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, it's offering time. Hallelujah. A little bit more enthusiasm one day. As we get ready to prepare for our offering, if you need an offering envelope, our ushers are available to hand you one. Just raise your hand and they will come and provide you with what you need. We do have point of sale for all the debit and credit card users. See Melissa. Put on your envelope, if you're using your debit and credit card, the amount you want and your name so she'll know specifically what you're doing. Also, as we get prepared for our offering, I'm going to read Malachi 3:8, which says, "Will a man rob God? Yet you are robbing me. But you say, how have we robbed you? In tithes and offering. You are cursed with a curse, for you are robbing me, the whole nation of you. Bring the whole tithe to the storehouse, so that there will be food in my house. And test me now in this, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing until it overflows. Then I will rebuke the devourer for you, so it will not destroy your fruits of your ground, nor will your vines in the field cast its grapes, says the Lord of hosts. All the nation will call you blessed, for you shall be a delightful land, says the Lord of hosts."
Also, let me say quickly, remember your pledges, remember your pledges, remember your pledges, remember your pledges. What did I just say? Remember your pledges. Remember your pledges. We still have a lot to do in the house. Amen. You are enjoying your the pledges right now. Amen. And there are some other things that we must do. We got to get a new roof and etc. That's costly. We got to do some other things internally. And so your pledges will help. Your envelopes are in. And Tracy, thank you, ma'am, for helping. When you leave, make sure you get your envelope, which is the anniversary envelope with all of the necessary instructions and information for you. Don't forget, especially members of this house. Thank you.
All right, if we were ready, we can get ready to do our offering affirmation. Everyone, please stand. Our offering affirmation. Lord, as we give our tithe offering, we are believing you, Lord, for jobs and better jobs, raises and bonuses, benefits, sales and commissions, estates and inheritance, interest and income, rebates and returns, checks in the mail, healing and divine health, gifts and surprises, finding money, bills paid off, settlements, debts demolished, royalties received, scholarships and grants, contracts, money management, 100-fold return, according to your word, in Jesus' name. Ushers, please follow the instruction of the ushers. Can we have some walking music? Woo. give, Lord Father God. We ask you for increase, Lord Father God. Continuous increase with an open heaven and rivers flowing with blessings and healings and increase. Increase. We could say increase, Lord Father God. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Well, we're going to get ready for the word. Children's ministry. Everyone that has children that wants to take them to children's ministry. 1 to 4. 1 to 4. 1 to 4. 1 to 4. I don't know. We don't have Sister. What's her name? Miss Rose. That's what I was thinking of. Miss Rose. But we have our next person that can do it. Amen. Amen. So now we're getting ready for the word. Hallelujah. 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 Well, we're going to introduce the beautiful, magnificent teacher of this house that gives us all the word we need, that fills us up with the word, that has extensive knowledge. And let's draw off of her. And Lord Father God, we ask, Lord Father God, that you continue to bless our prophetess Leona, Lord Father God. Lord Father God, continue to cover her from her head to her feet, Lord Father God, with your blessings and with increases, Lord Father God. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Praise the Lord, everybody. Come on, give God a praise all the time. All praise belongs to him. It belongs to him. Glory, 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 glory. I tell you, we had an awesome time worshiping this morning. And I felt the presence of God. I was looking for that scripture in Revelation. It talks about who Jesus is. He was and is to come. It's time to worship according to what? Spirit and truth. We thank you, Lord, for your word. Hallelujah. And we didn't release any words this morning. I think we forgot. Was there any prophetic word this morning? Okay, we've not released. We didn't release any last Sunday. I had one written down. Amen. From Prophetess Sherry gave me one. Praise God. And the Holy Spirit has been ministering to us, coming from Colossians. We are still in Colossians. Amen. And I've been studying that. And you need to study it because there's so much in this little book. It seems like a small book, but it's full of life-changing teachings. The doctrine of Christ is in here, the doctrine of the apostles, and we need to make sure that we're studying. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for your words. We thank you for your word that gives life, and your word does not come back void. Hallelujah, Lord. We thank you that the word will be written on our hearts today, God. And we will hear your voice and not follow strangers. We'll not wander from truth, but we will know the truth, and the truth will set us free. Help us, God, to hide the word in our hearts today, Lord. Because you said in Psalm 119, Verse 11, thy word I have hidden in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. So we thank you that the word will quicken us and give us life today, right now, in Jesus' name. We're going to give God a clap offering. We're going to start with chapter 2 today. I'm going to have an outline for you of the whole book of Colossians. And it's going to help you understand. I got a couple of sources I'm going to give to you. But first I'm going to give you an outline of chapter 2. And this is what the man of God, the apostle, was saying, chapter 2. Present with them in the Spirit. Isn't that interesting? Present with them in the Spirit. Although he had never met this church, he said he was present with them in the Spirit. So beholding their order, he could see how they were doing in the realm of the Spirit. And then he exhorted them to be rooted and grounded in Christ.
He said, now listen, we got to have roots. I saw a picture, you know, like we took I think it was a sweet potato or a bean, and we put it in water, and we watched the roots grow out of that potato or bean. Has anybody ever done that experiment? You know, take the sweet potato, or, you know, you could take a old plant, and it'll root. You'll see the roots growing in the water. We have to be planted by the rivers of living water. You won't have any roots unless you're planted in the water. Amen. You hear what I'm saying? You can come to church all you want to, but you got to get rooted in the Word. Somebody say, I have to be rooted in the Word. I need some roots. I need some roots. Because there's a storm that's going to come. Come on now. And if you don't have no roots, you're going to topple over. Have you ever seen a tree? It looks real good. The tree looking good. But let a wind come. Man, the tree is tipped over because it didn't have a root system. Somebody say you need what? A root system. Yes. So you have to be rooted and grounded in Christ. Somebody say, not beginning in Christ, not middle in Christ, but rooted and grounded in the whole process. Do you not understand that we are instantly saved? Bam, just like that. Yes. All you got to do is believe on Jesus. Somebody say babyhood, beginning, but that's not the end. There's a real devil out there. That you have enemies chasing you. Now that you're free from him, he's mad about it. So he's after you. Yes. So you got to get rooted in Christ. Yes. Next thing he says, warn against vain philosophies. Vain philosophies. All these false teachings. Baby saints can't tell that they're eating poison. Amen. They can't tell it's rat poison. And when you read the newspapers and magazines, there's so much humanism in there. What we think, our opinion, our reasons and rationalizations, what we believe. And I think that's all right. There's a lot of situational ethics. Also, well, I can do what I want to do. In my day, they said, you can't tell me who to soccer do. It's my thing. I do what I want to do. Right? You can't tell me who to soccer to. This is situational ethics. I can do what I want to do. As long as it don't hurt nobody, I can do it. Situational. Say situational ethics. But God is saying something else. He said, keep my commandments, because my commandments are not grievous. Now, you may think you can do what you want to do, but there is a serious problem coming. Somebody say truth or consequences. That's right. The truth will set you free, but there is consequences when you break the law of God. I don't care what they say. They say. What did God say? Ask your neighbor, what did God say? What does God have to say about that? And I think I better go back to the book. Somebody say, go back to the book. Say, read the Bible. Because if you listen to the world and these naysayers, they believe anything goes. Next one, they're declaring freedom. Freedom from God, and they call it freedom, but it's really licentiousness. They call it good evil and evil good. Talking about these vain philosophies. They got all their opinion. They got New Age. They into Buddhism and Confucianism. I say Confucianism. They're confused. They're mixing New Age and philosophy and Christianity and all kind of religions together. And they say many ways lead to heaven. But that's a lie. Tell your neighbor, say, that's a lie. Now, what did Jesus himself say? He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man can come to the Father but through me. Somebody say, there's no other way. There's no other way. Uh-oh. See, you're in trouble now if you believe. They come out with all kind of terms for you. That you're the religious right and you narrow. And your way leads to destruction. The wide is the way that leads to destruction. See, there's a wide way out there. If you want to go that way, you can go. But see, it's warning against vain philosophies. And they had a lot of them out there. Gnosticism said that you could do anything you want with your body and it didn't affect your spirit. So you could come to church and get saved. You could party on Friday. You could be drunk on Wednesday. You could be high on marijuana on Tuesday. And you could have your wife and your neighbor's wife. you're declaring freedom, but it's really licentiousness. And then they try to sanctify sin. You cannot sanctify an abomination. When a pig jumps in the pig pen, you know it's a pig. When a dog goes back to his vomit, you know it's a dog eating his vomit. Say, don't be deceived. Say, God's not mocked. Now tell your neighbor, don't be deceived. Say, God's not mocked. Say, you're going to reap what you sow. You can't sow to the flesh and not reap corruption. Come on now. You got to plant the right seed. You got to, I'm going to get a harvest, God. I'm going to get me a harvest. He said, what kind of seed have you planted? And let me tell you this, the way to heaven is through Jesus Christ. And so, if you try to get in heaven any other way, you're a thief and a robber. But Jesus said, I'm the door. I'm the good shepherd. You got to come through me. This is God's plan. Somebody say, this is God's plan. That's why he sent Jesus and had so many witnesses. That's why the disciples had to be there to recognize and be a witness. And so it's infallible proof that he is risen from the dead. Huh? He was here 40 days after his resurrection, and over 500 seen him, and he talked to them for 40 days about the kingdom of God. There is a witness. More than one. And how is it that 12 disciples turned the world upside down? Because it was based on truth. They had seen the risen Savior. You know, I was thinking of that song, Eric, when Thomas saw Jesus, because he said he wasn't going to believe unless he stuck his, little hand through his little nail prints and all that stuff. He said, believe, Thomas. He said, all hail. He said, my Lord, my God. That's what we should be saying. My Lord, my God. All hail, King Jesus. All hail, Emmanuel, King of kings and Lord of lords. I've seen you for myself. I know you for myself. Not mama's God. But somebody say, my God. Hallelujah. So warning against vain philosophies and the true circumcision. There are some people that came in after the church was birthed, and they try to say that they weren't saved because they didn't have the Jewish circumcision. And many had come in were Gentiles. And the Apostle Paul had been sent by God to minister to the Gentiles. But these Judaizers came in to destroy the church. They were mixing up people, converting whole households, messing up households. He said, watch them dogs. Somebody say, watch them dogs. And some people got a dog spirit. They're going to choose to be circumcised and look like them and act like them. And you got to wear your hair like them and wear the same clothes so you can be saved. They'll tell you you're not saved because you wear pants. They'll tell you you're not saved because it's a woman perspective. That you got makeup on. Well, I'm coming in right now. Anyway. See, there's a true circumcision. Somebody say, a true circumcision. Where the Spirit of God cuts off the flesh. Somebody, the Spirit of God cuts off the flesh. So we can bear fruit in Jesus. So it's not a physical circumcision, but it's a spiritual circumcision that comes through Jesus Christ. That's why he came. Because if a natural circumcision could cut it off, we didn't need no spiritual circumcision. But now through Christ, somebody say through Christ, we've been quickened together with him, and now everything's been cut off. All you got to do is submit to God and resist the devil. Walk in the Spirit as he is in the Spirit. All you got to do is put on a new man. It sounds easy, but you got to do this daily. And you got to come to church and be around Christians. You can't hang out with sinners. Come on now. You can't run with sinners. You can't be with your old friends. You can't go back to the bar. You can't go back to the party. Come on. You can't go back playing beer whistle all night. My sins were harder. I just played beer whistle all night and played Monopoly. That was all right. But when I got saved, they didn't want to be my friends anymore. Because I was a killjoy. So we're going to talk about true circumcision. The next one is baptismal burial. I thought about that. Baptism. Some people don't believe in baptism anymore. They don't believe in going down in the water. There's a lot of false teaching out on baptism. First of all, we know baptism, the Christian baptism is to go down in the water. If they didn't have any water, they would sprinkle you. But it means burial. you've got to be submerged. Amen? Jesus was baptized. And it said he did it to fulfill all righteousness. Now, Jesus had to be baptized. Who are you to say that you don't need to be baptized? Come on now, help me. We need to be saved first and then get baptized. Not many days in. Somebody said, I need to be baptized. Say, I need to go to the water. But before I go to the water, I got to use some soap. Say, Jesus is the soap. And then it says in this chapter, I'm just a little giving you an outline. The handwriting of ordinances were removed against us. The handwriting of ordinances were removed against us. And then it talks about keeping Sabbath days. I don't know if I'm going to get into that. And angel worship forbidden. Present with them in spirit, number 1. 2, exhortation to be rooted and grounded in Christ, 2. 3, warning against vain philosophers, 3. 4, the true circumcision. 5, the real baptism. 6, the handwriting of ordinance was removed. 7, keeping Sabbath days. And 8, angel worship forbidden. Now let's get into chapter 2. But for I would have you know what great conflict I have for you, for them at Laodicea, for as many as I have not seen my face in the flesh. Paul said, I have never seen these people. Never seen them. But it was Laodicea, the Colossians. I don't know how many churches was in this circuit, but Paul said he had never seen them before. But he had great conflict. When you look at the word conflict, it meant anxiety. He was really concerned about them because he understood what was going on. Then he said that their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love. There was a lot of assault coming against the church. They were attacking Christians, right? These Judaizers was found going from place to place, causing riots and stirring up mess against the Apostle Paul. He had to run for his life many a times. And so he said he was concerned that their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love. First of all, you're going to need to be encouraged with real friends. Yes. When you're going through a trial and tribulation, real friends will help you. Yes. They'll comfort you and say, we can make it, okay? And say, being knit together in love. Can you see that knitting together in love? What love had to do with it? It'll knit us, heart to heart and breast to breast. You'll care about me. Yes. You'll call me when I'm sick. You'll come by to see me when I'm sick. Yes. When somebody died in the family, you'll bring some food over. You'll call me and pray with me. Be knit together in love. See, we got to do better than what we're doing. We got to be knit together in love. I love you and you love me, and we're just a happy family, and we got to show that we love one another. Tell me, nigga, you got to show me some love. You got to show me some love. That their hearts being comforted, being knit together in love, into all the riches of the full assurance of understanding. You know, when I was reading that, I saw a treasure chest. It was full of jewels, you know, diamonds, you know, all these precious jewels, rubies, everything was in the treasure chest. Mr. T's, you know, necklace, all that gold. But God told me, into all the riches of the full assurance of understanding. That's worth billions of dollars. Can you see it? There's a riches that's in Christ. He called it riches of grace and riches of glory. There is a richness that's in Christ. We need that eternal richness. We need to be rich in the Word. Somebody say, I want to be rich. I want to be rich. But not with the stuff that's perishing. I want eternal richness. I want the real deal. I want the real thing. Not where thieves can come through and steal. That doesn't corrupt. I want the true riches. Somebody say true riches. True riches. A full assurance. Watch that. To all the riches, circle all the riches of a full assurance. All the riches and full assurance of understanding. That is not babyhood. How are you going to have all the riches and all the full assurance unless you're studying to show yourself approved? That's the word this year is unless you're pressing into His presence. I want to see you face to face. I got to know you, Lord, so much more than I do. Then He said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Then He said to me, if you will seek me, you will find me when you seek me with all your heart. I said, yea, Lord, I will seek you. And then we forget. Guilty. But pressing back into His presence. Somebody say, get in the press. Get in the press.
So I need this full assurance of understanding. Watch this. To the acknowledgement of the mystery of God. Somebody say the mystery of God. Mystery of God. You know, I like Sherlock Holmes. I love it. All those mystery shows. Trying to find out what's the mystery? Who done it? Who did it? But there's a mystery in God. He kept it hidden in Christ. Christ in you, the hope of glory. The mystery was one new man. Jew and Gentile coming together. One new man. That was the mystery. That's why there was Gentiles in the Old Testament that had faith. That's why he said to Tyrion, I haven't seen some great faith in Israel, because they were Gentiles who had faith. You read your Bible, the Syrophoenician woman. Read your Bible, that Samaritan woman. Read your Bible, huh? You'll find out all these Gentiles who had faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. And that was the mystery that was hidden the whole time. But now it's revealed in Christ. The mystery of God and the Father and of Christ, in whom are hid all treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Now, what you looking for? What are you looking for? Why are you reading that book and don't read your Bible? You shouldn't be reading no New Age book, no false Bible, no Satan's Bible, no black nothing but this one. We got 66 books we got to go through and know Christ. We got to know him. And I've been saved over 40 years and I act like I don't know nothing. You got to get back to the book. Read it in different versions if you're bored, if you're tired. Read it in different versions. You'll come back alive. Come on. It'll come back and say, oh, why you sit like that before God? In whom are hid, somebody say, hid all the treasure of wisdom and knowledge. These false teachers were saying they had some revelation that the apostles didn't have and Jesus didn't have, and you had to go through them. They're having all these fanciful dreams and say, I dreamed last night. I'm not following you. If your dream is lead me to you and away from God, I'm not following you. And some stuff they say is totally off. It's error. It's heresy. Why are you following them? You better watch what you're reading, because all this stuff is a mixture. In whom are hid. This is in Jesus. In whom are hid all the treasure. Oh, I don't have to go to you. I got a Bible too. All the treasure is in Jesus. So I don't know what you're looking for. We got this engineer right now. Everybody wants new teachers. You better get back to the old that'll keep you. You got to get back in the anchor, the security of the Word. You better know that New Testament. You better know the gospel of Jesus Christ. You better understand Acts and Romans and all the epistles and Revelation. How is it that we have time for anything else? We're working jobs, we're taking care of children, we got a husband and wife. How do we have anything for anything else? We're in college. If you're not a good time manager, you won't take time for the Word. In whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. You mean everything's in Jesus? Yes, everything is in Jesus. What you're looking for is in Jesus. He's the treasure chest. Go back to Jesus. Read your Gospels. Read the Gospel of John. They recommend for new Christians. Read the Gospel of John. It gives you a clear picture of who he is. Did you know he's the creator? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning in Genesis. Let us make man in our image. He said, before Abraham was, I am. What are you talking about? How do you know Abraham? He said, I am. He was saying, I'm deity. I'm the Ancient of Days. I'm the one you'd be looking for. I'm the creator. I made everything. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word dwelt with God. Everything you have is in Jesus. But when you go to Hebrews, let me go there real quick. When you go to Hebrews, you say, oh, Jesus, listen to him. A lot of people are building tabernacles to other people. Like Peter did when they on the Mount of Transfiguration. He was so scared, he said, let's build 3 tabernacles. And then God had to say, listen, my beloved son, this is what I want you to listen to. It says in Hebrews chapter 1, God who at sundry times and divers manners spake in the times past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken to us by his Son, who he had appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the world, hath in these last days spoken to us by his Son. How is he speaking to us? By his Son. Hebrews chapter 1, verse number 2, hath in these last days spoken to us by his Son, whom he has appointed heir of all things. Everything belongs to Jesus. He's the heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. By whom also he made the what? Worlds. He's the creator. We need to know who Jesus is. Everybody don't know who he is. He came to redeem his own creation, what he made. He said, lo, it's written to me. It's written to me in the book. I come to do thy will, O God. And God said, well, let him come as the only begotten Son. Jesus willingly came down, took off his glory, and put on humanity. That's when he became the only begotten, when he got in Mary's womb, because he always was God in the beginning. Read your Revelation. He was slain before the foundation of the world. He knew he would have to die for our sin. He was slain before the foundation of the world. Amen. See, we got to study now. A lot of people don't know who Jesus really is. But all we need is Jesus. Yes. All we need is Jesus. Yes. Jesus in the morning. Yes. Jesus in the noontime. Jesus when the sun goes down, because the fullness is in Jesus. Now watch this, verse 3 of Hebrews 1 and 3. Who being the brightness of his glory. It's talking about Christ's glory. The express image of his person. Upholding all things by the word of his power. He looks just like God the Father. The express image of his person. Holding all things by the word of his power. When he had by himself purged our sins. When he died for our sins on the cross. Sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high. Hallelujah. Yes. Jesus. Somebody say Jesus. Jesus. Hallelujah. And then it says here, be made so much better than the angels. Somebody say he's superior. Say he's superior to angels. See, I'm not supposed to be praying to angels. Because he's the Lord of hosts. He's over the angels. You pray the word and the angels hearken to the voice of his word. You just speak the word only. And Jesus, the commander-in-chief, will command the angels. Some of us got real big-headed now. And taking scriptures out of context. Command ye the works of my hand. Some things we can't do, we got to let the Lord do. Now check this out. It said, being made so much better than the angels, as he had by inheritance attained a more excellent name than they. For unto which of the angels said he at any time, thou art my son? What did God say to him? Thou art my son. And this day I have begotten thee. And again, I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. And again, when he bringeth in the first begotten into the world, he said, let all the angels of God worship him. So he is saying that the angels have to worship Jesus. Yes. We're not supposed to worship angels. This angelic worship has got a lot of people in trouble. They're worshiping angels. And then these angels can appear to them and bring them another doctrine. Bring them some tablets with some writing written on it. Do you know how many cults have started with the tablets with some writing written on it? Supposed to be given to them by an angel. And you know, God said to, I don't know, was it Apostle Paul Peter said, let them be accursed. Anybody bring another doctrine? I saw this light. I saw this light. It was marvelous. It was bright. It looked like an angel. And all the angels were smoking cigarettes. No, y'all, look at me. That's what the person said. They told us that. I said, I don't think that's right. I was a young baby saying, I knew that wasn't right. Why would God give you a vision of angels smoking cigarettes? And as the vision was saying, you need to smoke. So you see in Hebrews chapter 1, he said the angels were inferior to Jesus. Yes. And of the angels, he said, who make his angels spirits and his ministers a flame of fire. Angels are sent to minister for us, to us, and for the heirs of salvation. And then the last verse I'm going to come from this Hebrews chapter 1 and 8. But unto the Son he said, thy throne, now listen, he's talking to Jesus, thy throne, O God. What does he call Jesus? What does he call Jesus? Thy throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of righteousness is the scepter of thy kingdom. Boy, that's good, isn't it? You can read the whole chapter talking about, see what it is. That chapter is letting us do a comparison analysis between Jesus and angels. Apparently some people were teaching over there in that book too, worship angels. But Jesus is superior. He's over everything and everybody. He has the preeminence. He's God Almighty. God highly exalted him. After he suffered many things, he said, don't call me the Christ till I have suffered. Now we can call him Jesus Christ. But we know he did everything the Father told him. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So he was saying that in whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. And this I say, that any man should beguile you with enticing words. Well, if you know that word beguile comes from what you see in Genesis. It said that the devil beguiled the woman, seduced her, told her lies. If you eat this fruit, ain't nothing gonna happen to you. You're gonna be like God. You're gonna be just smart just like God. And she looked at it. She said, it'll make you wise. The next thing you know, she ate it and given it to Adam. Beguile. Beware of Satan beguiling you, trying to seduce you. And what does he use? Somebody say words. Words. Say words. Words. So we have to have discernment. Who are you listening to? You know, I often say this, but let me repeat it. Why didn't Eve know she was talking to a snake? How is it that we don't know we're talking to snakes? And they biting us and filling us full of poison. And we don't even know it. But you know what? He can wait. He can have one lie, another lie, 2 or 3, and false witness, and we believe the lie. So let's make sure that we're not being guiled by Satan. Though I be absent in the flesh, yet I am with you in the spirit, joying, beholding your order and the steadfastness of your faith in Christ. He could see that. He could see how they were living. And he said this word, beholding your order. Somebody say orderly. Say, I got to live an orderly life. I bind the spirit of confusion. I bind the spirit of disorder in the name of Jesus. I loose a sound mind, because God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power and a sound mind. God, restore their soul so they can think the right thoughts, God. Let them hear the voice of God. Bring order out of that chaos right now in Jesus' name. So you got to have that order. And then it said, the steadfastness of your faith in Christ. Say, stop being wishy-washy. Say, stop being wishy-washy. Up and down, up and down. How you say, I don't know. How you say, you got to be steadfast and unmovable, always abounding in the works of the Lord. Can't be wishy-washy. Up and down, in and out. Can't straddle the fence. Then it says, as you therefore receive Christ the Lord, so walk ye in him. This is your lifestyle. You're walking in him, rooted and built up in him, established in the faith, as you have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. You got to be taught, rooted and built up in him. We had an awesome Bible study Wednesday. Apostle was here. We had an awesome Bible study. We discussed a lot of stuff. You missed it. You weren't here. See, rooted and grounded in him, established in the faith. As you have been taught, you have to be taught, abounding, overflowing, therein with thanksgiving. See, we got to live a thankful life, not complaining, not mumbling, not grumbling, but a life of overflowing thanksgiving. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy. What do they want to do to you? Somebody say, spoil me. Now go buy you some steak and hamburger. Leave it out for 3 days. Won't it start stinking? See, the devil wants to spoil you. He wants you to get out there on the limb. And he wants you not to have any seasoning in your life. So he wants to spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit. They just got a big ego. Their head is all puffed up. They think they know everything, but they don't know nothing. They're not submitted to anybody. They're mavericks. They run everywhere and go everywhere. They will not obey. They don't obey anybody. That's why they fire from every job. After the tradition of men. So you got to beware that some people are running after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world and not after Christ. I thought about that too. I said, okay, Lord, traditions of men, they said wash your hands and water pots, and they rebuked Jesus, why your disciples pluck some corn. And he said they were hungry, and then he gave them an analogy about what David did. But see, they were more concerned about traditions than the truth. And Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath, not the Sabbath Lord over them. And so he healed a man on the Sabbath. They got mad. That's when they started plotting to kill him. He said, we're going to have to kill him because he don't heal. Wait, something wrong with you. Somebody did something good. Then he said to them, wouldn't you take your oxen? If an ox fell in a hole, wouldn't you take your ox out? Here's a man. His arm was like this. Jesus said, stretch forth your hand, your arm, whatever. And he was totally made whole. And you angry about a healing? Say, something's wrong when you're angry about a healing. So we got to be careful of the traditions of the world and not after Christ. For him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead body. Underline that verse. What's in Jesus? All the fullness of the Godhead body. Everything you need is in Jesus. That's why he was dealing with these false teachers. And you are complete in him. Somebody say, you're not incomplete. No, you're not perfect yet. You haven't arrived, but you're complete in Jesus. That's why we got to study who you are in Christ, so you can be sure that you know who you are in Christ, that you are accepted in the beloved, that you are forgiven, right? You've been translated out of the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of his dear son. You got to study what you have in Christ so you can believe who you are. One man said that we don't even need deliverance ministries. The problem is that most of the church don't know who they are. In Christ. In him we live and move and have our being. In him we live and move and have our being. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live. I live by my faith for the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. God is working on a building not made with hands. So when Satan's always bringing up your past and your mistakes, say, plead the blood of Jesus. I'm forgiven and I'm going through a process. It's a process. And I'm walking in the light as he's in the light. And the blood of Jesus continually cleanse me from all sin. Now, I'm not going to make a habit of sin. I'm not a habitual sinner. But in case I fall, I do have an advocate, a mediator. His name is Christ Jesus. He is propitiation for my sin. He's the go-between. He's my intercessor. Come on. He's my counselor and my lawyer. Somebody say, we got help. We got help now. When we didn't have no help. Now, this part is a good one. I'm almost finished, y'all. Ooh, this is such a good chapter. For in him dwelleth all the fullness. We got that, right? And we're complete in him. Study that out. Which is the head of all principality and power. When you talk about a principality, it's over a city. Go back and read Daniel. There was the prince of Persia over that nation. See, then the prince of Grecia was coming in, and the angel was sent, but it took 21 days for war for them to get to answer. So you already prayed about it, but there's some demons in the heavens blocking your prayer. It's called a principality, or it could be a power. Keep on believing God. Say, I shall not be moved. I shall not be, but I shall be planted by the rivers of water. Come on, stand up with me. Everybody stand up and plant yourself. I shall not be moved. I shall not, but I shall be planted by the rivers of living water. I ask God, and my answer is on its way. I believe God. I believe God. I believe God. Help is on its way. And let me see it. Hallelujah. In whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, in putting off of the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. This is what happened to you when you got saved. Jesus quickened you together with him and took off that old self, and now you're a new person, new creature in Christ Jesus. And whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands. Well, see, those mutilators, those Judaizers want to come and circumcise everybody. And say, now you say without circumcision. But there's a circumcision made without hands. And they put off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. Say, I'm not a sinner anymore. Say, I've been circumcised by the circumcision of Christ. I'm a new creature in Christ Jesus. And then he says, we are the righteousness of God in Christ. So we got to get in these scriptures. We are the righteousness of what? Of God in Christ. Now here's the warfare. You commit a sin, the devil comes and say, you're not righteous. You know what you did yesterday. Even though you repented about it. Yeah. Then he comes back and bring it back and say, don't you take communion today. You know who you are. You're just a filthy sinner. You're a worm undone. you might as well not go to church. You might as well just give up. You ain't got no victory. You have to fight. Now, let me tell you something. Let the strong bear the infirmities of the weak. If you were able to fight this battle by yourself, you would have won it. You got to get around strong saints and stop hanging out with these weak people. Girl, I did it. We all do it. You don't need nobody telling you that. You need to get around some strong saints that's going to help bear your infirmities. You need to sit in the front row, come to Bible study, every prayer meeting. Be a member of the body of Christ. Become a member. Become jointed. Not this don't join. Become jointed. Bear with him. This is verse 12. Bear with him in baptism, where also ye are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, who had raised him from the dead. We discussed this one Wednesday night. I don't know, about a half an hour. It was so good. We went to Titus 3 and started talking about the renewal of the Holy Ghost, how the Holy Ghost plants us in the body of Christ, and we're regenerated by the renewal of the Holy Ghost. He puts us in there. We're baptized with the baptism of the Spirit. We're placed in the body of Christ. Buried with him in baptism. Somebody say, buried with him. But before we even get buried, I was thinking about this at the cross. I was on the cross with Jesus. I am crucified with him. And then, all that he went through the cross, he bore all my sins and he bore my sickness. And with the stripes I'm healed, wounded for my transgression, bruised for our iniquity. He took my punishment. My punishment was put on him. I deserved to die, but he took my place. Come on now. He took the nail prints in his hand. He took the nail prints in his feet. He shed blood in 7 areas. And God, we thank you for the blood. We thank you for your sacrifice. Nobody could know who he was. He was so disfigured. We thank you for your blood. They pulled out his beard. They plucked his beard. They said horrible things to him. But he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. There was no revenge in his heart. He could have called 10,000 angels, but he did. He said, God, I come to do your will, oh God. I come to do your will. And it says in Hebrews, for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, seeing many sons and brethren coming to Christ. He saw us coming. He said, when I die, they gonna get up with me. See what it says here? It said, buried with him at baptism. When also ye are risen with him. See, say, come on, oh God. Say, I'm risen. I'm risen. Say, I'm risen with him. At the cross. You die with the buried with him in baptism, when also ye are risen with him. Now here's the key: through the faith of the operation of God. God quickened us with Jesus. Took off that old flesh and gave us a new nature. And now we can obey God. Now we can hear his voice. Now we can walk with the Spirit. Now we can follow him. There's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, who walk after the Spirit, but not after the flesh. The flesh can't please God. But God, here I am, God. I want to please you, God. I cannot please you. He said, when I'm faithful, it's impossible to please me. Through the faith of the operation of God. Somebody say, God did it. God. Who did it? God did it. Who did it? God did it. God did it. And God did it. Who did it? God did it. I couldn't do it, y'all. But God did it. I couldn't do it. But I want to do right, but I couldn't. Here it is, though. Somebody asked about this scripture. It was Ephesians chapter 2. Verse number 4. But God, who is rich in mercy, for in his great love, wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sins, hath quickened us together with Christ. By grace you are saved, and have raised us up together, and made us sit together in heavenly places in Christ. That in the ages come, he might show the exceeding riches of his grace in his kindness to us through Christ Jesus. For by grace you are saved through faith. How do we get saved? By grace you are saved through faith. That not of yourself is a gift of God, not a work that any man should boast. Somebody said, I can't brag about nothing. I got saved by faith. It was because of man's grace. Somebody say, because of man's grace. I'm here. Because of his grace. look at. Let me just talk about this for a minute, Pastor. I'll be done. And you being dead in your sins. This is verse number 13. I was dead in sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh. Somebody said, my flesh was uncircumcised. I was just doing everything and anything that came to my mind. Huh? I was a sinner, shown up a sinner. And then it says, hath he quickened together. Somebody say quickening power. Quickening power. With him. He hath forgiven you all your trespasses. So when we got with Jesus, he quickened us and all our sins were washed away and all our trespasses are gone. Because you see the law, verse 14. It was good, but we couldn't keep it. So he said, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us. See, the law would accuse us. We commit one sin. We was guilty of them all. It was good, but we couldn't keep it. Because there was something working on the inside of us called the sin nature. And we couldn't do right. When we want to do right, we did wrong. So blotting out the handwriting of ordinance that was against us, which was contrary to us, he took it out the way, nailing it to the cross. He nailed all your sins. Come on, say it. He nailed all your sins to the cross. Satan accusing you, but he nailed it to the cross. He nailed it to the cross. You're forgiven. He nailed it to the cross. The devil don't have no right to blackmail you. He nailed it. He nailed it to the cross. Somebody say, I'm forgiven. I'm forgiven. He nailed it to the cross. Then it says, ending here, having spoiled principalities, that's on demons and powers, went down to hell, made a show of them openly, triumphantly over them in it. He was triumphant, defeated the devil. We're going to be studying that more, but defeating the devil at the cross, going down to hell, strutting his stuff. I got the keys to hell, death and the grave. Then he got up. He gave you up. He released the fivefold ministry and gave gifts to men. He ascended. But before he ascended, he went down. Then he went back up.
Amen. Hallelujah. It was awesome. So if you don't come to Bible study in the evening, trust me, you should, because I tell you, you get a good word in the evening. And not saying that Pastor don't do a good job in the morning, but we have to get a good word in the evening. So we're going to get ready to continue with the conclusion of our service. We're going to do an altar call. Sorry, we're going to do our altar call. If anyone that needs prayer, or if you want to join this radical church, because I tell you, we are radical. We don't hold back either. We don't hold back when it comes to praising God, because that's the one who deserves it all. So, so if you want to join this church, you are welcome. If you need prayer, you are welcome. We can have someone pray for you. So, we can please stand and get ready to do our benediction. Before we close out, Prophet Bobby wanted me to remind the ladies of the colors that we have for Women's Day on on next Sunday, and anything that you were required to bring for the evening service for our snack or dinner, that you be reminded that we are going to require you to bring that. Our colors are red and white and black, and you can do it in any combination you feel is appropriate for you.
I want all women to come up real quick after church in about 5 minutes.
Y'all heard that?
5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes.
She needs 5 minutes of your time. Prophetess want to see every woman of this house 5 minutes. All right, so we can get ready for our benediction. In Numbers 6 and 24, the Bible says that the Lord bless you and keep you, that the Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee, that the Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. and that they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Go in peace and keep Jesus as center of attraction. Amen. Love on somebody before you go.